this is not a Christian organization at all. This is a very angry, hateful organization run by like dreadfully unhappy middle-aged lesbians, which is exactly what it is.
I do a lot of videos in which I look at Piers Morgan's stuff, and he has liberal people on and conservative people on, and they sort of, scream at each other. But in today's clip, he has Tucker Carlson on. And, I find that when Piers Morgan talks to right-wingers, it really brings out the right-winger in him. And when it's one-on-one with somebody like Neil deGrasse Tyson, Piers can be very, polite and deferential and mature and welcoming. But I think you have to judge somebody by the full spectrum of what they do. And, in this clip, he's just going full Tucker with Tucker. And today I want to talk about the right's hysteria over this, air quotes, so-called bishop and her comments at Trump's inauguration. I'm going to have opinions, which I will state as we go. And then I want to know what you think in the comments. But let's check it out together.
Can I ask you about something that happened big in the American election, which we're now wrestling with in our country? Wokeism, the woke mind virus. It seemed that Trump's core of common sense prevailed, that a lot of people rejected and repudiated all the woke bullshit. That advert, Kamala's for they, them, Trump's for you, was incredibly effective. What do you feel about that? Do you think woke is dead as a concept, or is it dying, or are people going to try and revive it? I'm asking because two things have happened in the last few days where I thought, well, it's not dead yet. One was the bishop lecturing Trump.
My bishop.
Your bishop.
Marianne Edgar Budd.
I mean, I watched that. I thought she really hasn't got the memo here, which is we don't want to see a bishop do that in that way.
So she is the Bishop of Washington in the Episcopal Church, which is the Church of England in the United States. So this is like, I know you're Catholic, but it's like, that is directly from Great Britain. And that is a measure of what's happened to your country, if I can say. And I personally, since that's my church, I think it's probably a good thing for people to see what it's really like. That this is not a Christian organization at all. This is a very angry, hateful organization run by like dreadfully unhappy middle-aged lesbians, which is exactly what it is. So only by showing that in public can it ever be forced to reform. So I actually thought it was a hopeful thing that the rest of America, not just we Episcopalians, could see what it's actually like, which is repulsive and totally non-Christian. It's pagan. But I think wokeism, look, is just one manifestation of something that has been at work in this world since Eden, which is evil. It's purely destructive. It exists under a very dishonest guise, which is like to help and enrich and uplift people. It does none of that. It's a purely destructive force designed to wreck institutions that were actually humane and divide people from each other along the lines of race and sex. And it's just evil, and we should say that. Of course, it'll live on in some other manifestation because evil in the world, will always be with us.
I have literally been biting my tongue. That's just capital K crazy, right? I mean, I'm not going to put it in here, although I could, but you can go back and you can watch the footage of the inauguration. The right loves to talk about how she went on this unhinged rant, this screed. There is nothing about the way in which that bishop delivered her words that was unhinged. She didn't raise her voice. She wasn't condemning anyone. What she did was she asked President Trump to remember that not all immigrants are criminals, and to have mercy on the people that needed help, right? That sounds pretty Christian to me. That sounds like something Jesus might say. Doesn't sound evil, doesn't sound particularly woke, doesn't sound radical, right? I don't know what they're talking about. They see what looks like real Jesus-centric Christianity, and they start screaming like this is unhinged. This guy is absolutely Pollyanna quackers. He's batshit.
One of the reasons I think it got repudiated in such an emphatic way at the election in America was that Trump very cleverly went on a lot of shows, podcasts, YouTubers, Joe Rogan, shows like that, which his son Barron apparently was steering him to do, because he recognized that people of his age, this is what they're getting their news from. You've now gone fully into this world. I've done the same.
Both of us got here involuntarily.
Yeah, of course. I mean, we sort of...
It's so great.
We got exited out of linear world, yeah.
Yes.
How do you find, I mean, do you feel liberated? How do you feel about it?
Totally. I mean, I just feel, I'm 55, we're very close to the same age, and I feel that all the really great things in my life have begun as disasters, that it's never... you're never on vacation where you reach enlightenment, sitting on the beach in St. Bart's. It's always some tragedy. You get cancer, or someone you love dies, you get fired from your job. That's when your life, at least in my experience, changes for the better. So I'm so grateful for having been fired as often as I have. And this last one...
Trying to work out which of us has lost more jobs. It's quite a close wrong thing, actually.
This is one thing I've always loved about your country, the journalism in your country, is that people get fired all the time.
Yeah.
You guys get fired all the time.
The badges of honor,
I love that. No, I've always...
It's like, how many times? Only 3?
No,
What's the matter with you? You're obviously not doing things nearly controversially enough.
And I'm sorry to beat up on your country, so I love the Brits. That's why I'm so mad.
Yeah, listen, the reason I didn't rein back on what you were saying, because a lot of people in Britain do feel that. They feel we've lost our identity, our national pride. They're worried about what's happening in the country. They can see the infrastructure collapsing. The National Health Service used to be this great...
They apologize for their empire. It's so much deeper than the NHS was always stupid. I know you guys love it. We have socialized medicine. If you're bragging about socialized medicine, that is the lamest, most beta thing to be proud of ever.
You know the difference?
I can get a prostate exam for free. If that's what you're bragging about, no. This is a nation that used to rule the subcontinent.
I actually have
ruled the world.
I actually have had a prostate exam for free.
But that's how degraded it is. Like, you literally talk to them, even the right-wing Brits are like, well, I can't criticize the NIH.
All right.
Because
you know what?
The flower of British civilization is building socialized shitty medicine.
Listen. I'll take this to a point. Okay?
No, you can't
I'll take
criticize
this to a point.
NHS.
But now I've got to defend my country.
But your empire was great in some ways. Will you admit that?
Yes, but listen, of course.
Okay, good.
There were lots of great things about the empire. There were things we shouldn't have done.
Of course.
But this constant revisionist going back, wanting to apologize, wanting to pay vast sums of money to the descendants of people that they never knew, right, centuries later, is utterly preposterous.
Apologizing on behalf of dead people is specious by its nature.
Let me tell you the difference.
I can only apologize for myself.
If you come to London, and we're walking on the road, and
I'm never going again.
And you get hit by a car, and you will go again, and you get hit by a car and you break your leg, you will get immediate, great, world-class healthcare, and you won't have to pay for it. When I broke some ribs in Santa Monica, falling off a Segway, one of the most embarrassing things in my life, not least because when I'd been a newspaper editor and George Bush fell off a Segway, I said, what kind of idiot falls off a Segway as a headline?
Or rides
and then
Segway.
Many years later, I fall off and break 5 ribs and collapse a lung.
Santa Monica.
And then in Santa Monica, in the hospital there, and all I remember is coming in and out on a morphine haze in utter agony, and some guy in a doctor's robe standing over me with a form saying, have you got the ability to pay for the medication?
Just swipe your credit card as you come out of the haze.
Right, but you think that's a better system than mine? Come on.
Look, it's a pile of crap and a pile of shit, and you kind of like, if you have stage 4 pancreatic, probably better to be in the US. If you break your arm in a Segway accident, probably better to be in London. It's all kind of crappy, actually, and capitalism is an amazing engine, but there are downsides to it, and it's not a religion. So I think you can admit that a for-profit medical system has some ugly parts to it, and it definitely does. And you can also admit that socialized medicine is kind of lame, because it is. And I don't know. By the way, getting sick is bad. Right? And both England and the United States are super unhealthy countries, leaving the healthcare system apart. Everyone's fat. The food is terrible.
Do you ever notice when you look at pictures from New York in the 20s, or London, or Paris, have you ever noticed that there are no fat people in the pictures?
Have you ever seen pictures from Woodstock? So it's August of 1969.
Same thing. They're all skinny.
300,000 people, America's middle class. It's all white kids whose ribs you can see.
Right.
A lot has changed. I think that's, these snapshots tell us that. And by the way, I eat American food. I have to go on a diet like every other month. Because it's just bad. I'm not judging anyone. I'm just saying.
Well, we're more sedentary now, aren't we? Just generally.
And just the food is bad. Like, you can feel it. And when you go to other countries, if you travel a lot, as I know that you do, eat a loaf of bread in Moscow and see how you feel. Try that in America. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, the food is different, but whatever.
We know the thing about American bread is you buy it and you leave it. I was telling my English friends this. I've got a house in LA, and you buy a loaf of bread, and then a month later it's still fine.
More than a month.
And you're like, in England, that's gone off in 6 days. It's gone moldy.
They found Wonder Bread in the pyramids, and it's fine. Yeah. No, it's incredible. It's incredible. I mean, it's not food.
Can I ask you quickly just about Maga versus the brave new world of Musk and the people around Trump and the people like Zuckerberg now doing big U-turns and so on? A lot of people in conventional Trump Maga have a big problem with this. They think there's a lot of people who are not by any means genuine Trumpers who are kind of getting on the bandwagon, doing massive U-turns, wanting a piece of the action because it's good for them commercially. And there does seem to be a bit of a divide developing in the conservative movement between the kind of original diehard MAGA and this new world around Trump. What do you feel about that?
I'm not sure what I think. I mean, there are a couple of ways to see it. I mean, Elon is a special case, I think.
What do you think of him?
On board with Trump. Well, he's a really interesting person. He's one of the funniest people I've
I met him for 2 hours last summer. I thought he was a total genius when he talked about colonizing Mars and Neuralink and humanoid robots in particular. Fascinating. He sort of came alive, and I thought, this is a big picture guy, the like
humanoid
of which I've
robots?
not met. Yeah, you know about this? Everyone's going to have humanoid robots, he says, $20,000 a pop. They'll be able to do all domestic duties. Everything. I said, well, including, can they have sex? He said, it would be like making love to a slow-moving washing machine at the moment, but yes.
That seems as good a place to end these two dodos talking to each other as anything. Some highlights. I'm trying to just let it speak for itself, right? Because if you don't see what's happening here, it really is like Alice in Wonderland. It's like Tweedledee and Tweedledum fluffing each other. I just... the fact that Tucker thinks Elon Musk is one of the funniest people he's ever met sort of says it all right there. Jeez. I don't know. These are the great minds of the right. Let me know what you think in the comments.